details and how they've been helpful, but some cities and towns have struggled. We've done pretty good, Steve. We want to keep.
You know,
we
the
wanna keep up
council
that track
president doesn't like to look for the raised hands.
Oh,
you
no,
know?
I do. So we're only gonna use raised hand function, and I'm gonna be heavy-handed on the mute button today.
Oh,
Hey, Arthur, how are you?
Good, Steve. How are you?
Good.
Are you jacking on Tony?
trying to get the glare out of my glasses. I can't.
What's happening here?
We're waiting for you, Counselor.
You're waiting for me. It's just 5 o'clock now.
5:02.
Oh, geez, sorry. It was a long trip from upstairs to down here. Okay, everybody ready?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the May 18th, 2020 meeting of the zoning subcommittee. Madam Clerk, do you want to call the roll?
Sure, roll call of the zoning subcommittee members, Counselor Janino. Here. Here, Counselor Guanasso.
Here.
Here, Counselor Morabito.
Here.
Here, Counselor Visconti.
Here.
Here, Counselor Keith.
Here.
Here, and Chairman Zambudo.
Here.
Here, a quorum is present. There's one item on the agenda this evening. This is an amendment to the zoning ordinances of the City of Revere relative to brew pubs.
Great. Do we have anybody who wants to speak in favor of this, or who do we have
Thank-
where?
I think Frank is
Mr.
going to make the initial presentation. Frank, are you there?
I am here. Mr. Chairman, as we mentioned and discussed at the public hearing, brew pubs are basically an establishment where beer is produced and bottled only for retail sale and consumption on the premises. And that's as opposed to a brewery, distillery, or winery. That's basically a plant where beer, wine, or other alcoholic beverages are produced and bottled for wholesale distribution, including retail sale for consumption on premises or off premises. And I can go through once again the zoning districts where these are allowed. So a brew pub would be allowed as a right in the RC2 district, which is basically where Waterfront Square is, the southern end of Revere Beach. Plan Development District 1, which is Suffolk Downs. Plan Development District 2, which is the Wonderland site. Our General Business District, our Central Business District, our Highway Business District, our TED District, which is basically Lee Burbank Highway and the area surrounding Bell Circle, and our Industrial Park District, which is the Old Necco site and the Showcase Cinema site. And breweries, distillery, or wineries would be allowed only by special permit in the General Business District and Central Business District, whereas they would be allowed as a right in the RC2, PDD1, PDD2, Highway Business, TED District, and IP District, Industrial Park District. So that basically produces two new uses in our zoning use regulation table that were not presently there. And as discussed at the public hearing, we're getting a lot of interest in creating these new uses in the city. And again, a brew pub, you're all familiar with a brew pub. If you've ever been to Yard House or Salem Beer Works, there's a number of them throughout our surrounding communities. And it would be a very nice and added attraction to the city of Revere, especially along our central business district on Broadway and along the beachfront, Waterfront Square. And with that, I'll just turn it over to the chairman.
Thank you, Frank. Bob O'Brien, do you want anything to?
Well, yes, Mr. Chairman, I would just add, as I indicated in the public hearing, that this zoning amendment has the support of the administration, my department in particular, and I think it also enjoys widespread support throughout the community, not least on the city council. I think one of the earliest advocates for this in his discussions with me was on our Council President Patrick Keefe. And I think his support for this is represented by widespread support in the community.
Great. Any councilors? Councilor Guanasso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've had the pleasure to go to Yard House on several occasions in Linfield. And to me, it was really an enjoyable evening. And one that you could bring your young children to, because it's just a good environment, a very nice place to enjoy a glass of beer, but they also serve food, light fare food and cheeseburgers, hamburgers, and all the other stuff like that. And I just think it's a fun thing to do. It's the way of the future. I think that if we want to refer to the millennials, I think they kind of enjoy that. But I think us older folks like it too. So I think it's something for all of us. And I think I'm anticipating it and coming to our community because I think it's a very nice thing to have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Thank you, Councilor Guanasso. Let's see, Council President Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Bob O'Brien had mentioned, this is one of the first topics I had spoken to him about when he had come on with his role in the city and trying to attract new business to the community. Certainly a business that we don't entertain currently is brew pubs, wineries, and the such. So knowing that that's an amenity that I know many residents would appreciate, there's no reason why we shouldn't be amicable to offering this. Obviously, the zoning restrictions would be, I'm very much in favor of where they could be located. And then for the breweries with their special permits, again, we'd be very, very amicable to those as well. So I'm 100% in favor and I'm excited to see this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Janino.
Thank you, Mr. President. I definitely support this motion or this amendment. I think it's great. I think it's something that's going to give our residents something else to go see and go do. Revere wants to be a destination, right? So we want people to come here to try a new restaurant or try something different, and our surrounding communities all offer this. So I think it's time that we kind of come up to par and give our residents and people visiting more things to see and do. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's great.
Great. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Morabito.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm obviously in favor of this zoning change. What I think is great that Suffolk Downs will be zoned there in Waterfront Square, everywhere where there's mixed residential, so people can drink responsibly and just walk home. So that's one thing I'm in favor of, and that's what I like the locations that were chosen for the zoning. Frank, I should have a question for you in regards to definition. Will you be working with the solicitor, and will he be defining like brew pub and what percentage of the establishment will be gross income would be required for food versus alcohol, or will there be any kind of definition versus how much what percent, how we would tax them based on food or alcohol, what portion of it?
Well, brew pub, I mean, the percentage is not broken down. It's primarily for the, production and brewing of beer.
Correct. So there's meal tax and there's also brewery. So there's also alcohol tax. So would it be two different taxes? Would there be two separate tax revenues for the city in that, or would it all be considered alcohol?
No, I think that's correct. It would be two separate taxes for the food portion of it.
As far as definition and defining brew pub, will the solicitor be coming up with an ordinance as well to have a little definition other than just the zoning? I know if you check other cities' ordinances, they'll have, for instance, they'll put more detail, like the limit of production, can they make barrels in the facility?
Not in a brew pub. In a brewery, they can. A brew pub is they're just bottling for consumption on site, and that's it.
So they are bottling, so they're manufacturing on site as well.
Yeah, manufacturing and bottling and for consumption on site, combined with food.
So
you
will
could
there
have-
be a limit of how much they can produce? Is that they're going to be more wording to an ordinance that the solicitor will make?
I don't believe so. I think at this
Because
point,
if you talk to this, can I recommend that Frank speak to the solicitor and look at other cities as well? Because everyone who zones brew pubs, there's also an ordinance in defining brew pubs, what they can and can't do. Because I know some cities have made mistakes in the past, but have corrected them by making ordinances and putting
Okay,
more definition.
all right. So let me jump in here. We're obviously approving a zoning change to allow brew
Correct.
pubs. If there's other ordinances and so forth that would be needed in the future, I'm sure we can take that up later. I think this is to allow the use, and so that's what we're voting on tonight. Any other counselors? Anybody else have any input? I guess not. Madam Clerk?
On the ordinance relative to brew pubs, Counselor Janino? Yes. Counselor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morabito?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Visconti?
yes,
Yes. Counselor Keith?
Yes.
Yes. And Chairman Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes, this ordinance will be forwarded to the full city council with a favorable recommendation.
I believe that's the only agenda item we had. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, well, that ends the zoning subcommittee for May 18th, 2020. Thank you all for your attendance.
Thank you, councilors.
I spaced the meetings out a little bit farther and you're done in 2 minutes.
Well, there wasn't much to
I know.
talk about. I mean,
Well, there was only 2 items on the agenda last time and that first one took a whole hour.
well, that was because there was some
Yeah. No, I